All right, I am Xana Wolfgang. I'm so grateful to be here. I am many things, a dream cultivator, a funny farmer, and just passionate about empowering hearts to thrive. And I'm really excited to be here to ask Pete a little bit more about all that you do. So let's get started, Pete.
Awesome. So I podcast, I coach. I have 6 granddaughters, 2 daughters. I stay pretty busy in the community and enjoying life and the journey that I'm on right now.
Well, that is a beautiful thing. And what a special thing to include your family as a part of all that you are. I can share that as a mom of 2 and a wife of 1 for, 25 years. So much to
Mhm.
celebrate there. So, what makes you love what you do?
I failed English in high school. I made 2 failed attempts at Virginia Tech. I realized that academics was not going to be my path to anything. So I always loved people. And actually, one of my friends, my still high school friends, called me like Mr. Senior because I just love being around people. So I leaned into relationships and I struggled through most of my career with dyslexia and ADD. I say it's like I have an active brain and the brain processes differently than most. And it was 3.5, almost 4 years ago when I had a stroke. So I had 49 days to think. And that's the first time I've ever had that much time to think. I was always running and racing and, trying to keep up and you name it. I was on a pretty fast pace. When I had that time to think, I really started to think about, okay, I survived the stroke, even though I forgot to call 911. So I lost valuable time,
Yeah.
but I did have a chance to kind of think about. I was an avid golfer. I played 5 days a week after work. I would run. So those were my 2 like relaxing things. I couldn't do either.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of find something that would fill that void as plus the spiritual faith journey was there too. And what happened was I started journaling, which I'd never done in my life, except when I was in tough places. And my partner said, Pete, you like golf. Why don't you do podcasting? Because I had a digital marketing business, but I couldn't do that anymore.
Hmm.
So I said, I got to learn how to talk. So podcasting is talking. I love people. I'm very curious. I'm always learning, not academically. Like I say, I have a PhD in personal human behavior.
I
So,
love
I love people. I love studying people. I love that whole process. So, what I discovered is the relationship building, the curiosity, the learning came from podcasting. Now, I quit golf podcasting shortly because I wasn't playing and I just didn't feel it. But I was in a senior home, so I was around seniors and I got a chance to see the end of our life and really
Mm.
was what that was. And so I did a lot of senior podcasting, not seniors, but senior vendors who needed to get their business out there. And I just fell in love with connecting with people, learning their stories, and just having people that I didn't even know, like yourself, on a podcast. And I got a chance to know their story, which absolutely just filled my heart. I mean, at my happiest time, like work week, is 5 o'clock on a Monday morning. And people,
Mm.
80% of the people don't like Mondays because they don't like what
Sure.
they do. I love what I do. I talk with my team at 5 a.m., and it's the highlight of my week. So I went to my 50th high school reunion. And everybody said, Pete, when are you retired? I said, I'm just starting. I
Uh,
mean, I was just starting over. So I guess I love relationship. I love coaching. I love creating. And all three of those things I do all the time, and I don't do the other things I used to do.
Well, good for you. They say, what is it? What you do, you don't work a day in your life. So no need to retire if you love what you're doing, right?
I will be doing it till I'm 100 if I live that long. So, yeah, I think I did find what was interesting, Xana, when I was living at in the average age overture, the average age was just over 80. It was independent living, and they had a walk-in shower. I mean, walk-in shower. So I had to find a place that it was very expensive because I didn't need to play
Sure.
cards and watch movies and all the things that retired people like do.
Yeah.
But what I found out is when people lack like purpose, when they lack connections, they their health declines and they die 2 years after they retire. So connecting and just being a part of growth and having a purpose, I really could see the ones that leaned into it and the ones that didn't, they weren't around very long.
Which makes sense. I've seen time and time again how that disconnect with one's purpose can be destructive and apparently even, take lives ultimately. So,
Absolutely.
so I see in your background there, buy back your time. Tell me more about that.
Um, that's a beautiful question, and I'm an avid reader of self help. I think trying to improve and leverage other people's knowledge. That book impressed upon me about the value of time. I now I break my day into 5 hour days. So I get 21 days in a week where most people kind of do 7. And what buy back the time is really leveraging time and doing the activities in a simple sense is staying in your genius zone. I do 3 things every single day, and that's the only thing I do. The other things that kind of will not help me grow, will not help the team grow, I find people that are better to do it. And every time I find people that are better, I get better because I keep leveling up. So it just kind of impressed upon me the value of time and how freedom can come from it because we all have 24 hours. I will guarantee you spend your time differently than most. I know you get up early. I know you spend time with the funny farm. I know you're always busy. But busy is not the same as when you're getting things done, the
Yep.
important things.
Yep.
And I think I don't do like I hire people like a friend of mine from church came out, put 2 chairs together, put a desk there, and somebody said to me, "Why don't you do it yourself?" I said, "Well, one, it'll take me all day," and
That's right. Know
he
your
did
strength.
it in an hour, and I
Yeah.
was able to make phone calls, create stuff. So I'm doing what I do best, and he's so good at it, he knocks it out in no time. So I think most people they do those $10 an hour things or $20 an hour things, and there's not enough time to do that. You can't get your genius out of those kind of activities because that's not what you do best.
Yeah, no, I love that you touch on that because it's so true. If we can harness what we're strong at and delegate the things that are our weaknesses, which is sometimes easier said than done,
Oh
man,
yeah.
we're so much more powerful.
I mean, it's been a 2-year journey with that book. I mean, there's more to it. There's strategies, but it's basically the concept is do what you do best, stay in your genius zone. I try to share with people 3 things. What do you do that nobody else can do? And
Mhm.
stay with that and just because we're always going to be like pulled into stuff. It's just distraction, life,
Yep.
well, it only take me 10 minutes to do this. Well, there's a lot of truth to that, but the brain doesn't really work like that because it has to reset. So if you're constantly getting interrupted. You don't figure in the getting back into your genius zone. So you think it's 10 minutes, but it may be 30 or 40. And
Right.
we only have 24 hours. And if we sleep 8, we really have 16.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true that start stop for us is more than the 10 minutes. I am very guilty of that myself. So that's a great message. So what do you tell someone that maybe has the duties of things that are not in their genius zone, but maybe doesn't have the means right now to delegate that? Where do you start?
That's a beautiful question. That probably comes up more than most questions. I think it gets back to faith. And, you know, when you first lean into that, it's scary because you're thinking, well, I can't afford it, but really you can't afford not to, because if you stay in those $20 an hour activities, you'll never grow to your fullest potential. And I think it takes a little faith. You have to believe that what you have, those three things. We always we have an exercise called heaven and hell. And so hell is all the things that are just not things you should be doing.
Yeah.
Heaven is the things you want to do. You got to identify them. And the Buy Back Your Time talks about time audits. You got to be honest with how you audit your time. And if you can always keep peeling off those activities that drain you, it's almost like emotionally, they call them like for emotion, they call vampires that just
Yeah.
so they're actually taking energy from you. I get up at 3:30 every day. I go till 8 and I have energy throughout the whole day.
Yeah.
I used to dip, but whenever I start to dip at 3, I get on the phone, I call people. And that energizes me because people have emotion, they have feelings. I feel it. And it just kind of like, it's almost like a shot of Red Bull, but in a good
Yes.
way.
Does it ignite something in you? Absolutely. Well, I love that. And I love the speaking to faith and maybe just taking the leap before you feel ready. Sometimes we're just never going to be ready.
Yes.
Well, what else is on your heart to make sure that I know about Pete Kane today before we wrap up?
I think what when you're doing something, and I would put your vision, what you're doing in that same category, people will say, I don't understand. They don't understand your heart. They don't understand your vision. They don't understand the impact that you're making. And I can't like, I'm not trying to convince anybody to do anything. If they're interested, I want them to know about it. But
Sure.
I see people, and I just was talking to a lady. She was over in Perimeter Mall, which if you're in Atlanta, that's probably in traffic. That could be 50 minutes from where we are here. And
Okay.
she was attending meetings and doing things. I said, if you took that 50 minutes in just traffic, you took the time you spent, which was 2 hours with a group of people, and you put your personality, your curiosity, your, genius
Mhm.
into the podcasting community where you're getting to know people, where you're creating a digital asset, you could do 5 podcasts in the time you were spending traveling
Yeah.
or creating content. So I just like this to share with people, there's always a better way. Keep your mind open. That's why we do free podcasts, because we want people to see that the world changed. When I meet Xana Wolfgang, and I did, bec-
Yes.
at McKenna Farms, when my 3 granddaughters, they just love the animals. They were just, I mean, to see their face, it was like they were at Disney World. And I remember when we first met, there was a boy, he was probably 5 or 6. You weren't there at the time because we circled back because they wanted to come back.
Sure.
You took like a lunch break or whatever. But anyway, this boy, he had a chicken and he had it, and he had a smile from ear to ear. And he was holding that chicken, and I guarantee it was the first time he ever held a chicken in his
Yeah.
life. And it was like to see the smile and the joy on his face. It just kind of speaks to
Yeah.
like what you do. And if you're trying to explain that to somebody, that most they don't get it. It just goes right over their head. So I don't spend time trying to convince people. I want them to experience that chicken moment, that hugging, and seeing how they feel. So when I do a podcast, I always ask them at the end, "How did you like it?" And they all say, "This was great," because it's on their story. I
Yeah.
said, "Do you know there's a way we could do it better than what you're doing, say, in a networking situation and BNI or different places where people spend so much time, and
Yes.
time is so valuable. I can I Yesterday it was freezing cold up here.
Okay.
I didn't leave the house. And so I know people are out there in traffic and it's
Yeah.
raining, and all I was doing is podcasting, creating content, and coaching. And so I was doing my three things that I love, and I didn't have to face the challenging elements that are out there. So I think it's just if they're interested, they'll ask questions. If they're not, that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
not convince anybody that what I do is what they should do. But if they have interest, I want them to come on the podcast,
Yeah.
experience, and see if that's something that they enjoy. And I think the two biggest things is curiosity and learning. If you're curious and you want to learn from others, this is the best environment to be in.
Oh, well, that's incredible. And yeah, what did they say? Stay curious, right? And I think you're speaking to that. And speaking of McKenna Farms, I actually went to dinner last night with Jessie, who founded McKenna Farms.
Really?
So wonderful to catch up with her. And it sounds like it was a successful event this year.
It was, and they have a gentleman by the name of Randall who is heading up their capital. I mean, they're going to be expanding, and
Yeah.
so he's going to be on the podcast next week. They had a lot going on with
Oh,
the
very good.
fall festival. So, hey, we have a couple minutes. Do you mind if I flip the script and ask you a few questions while we're on here?
Of course. I would expect nothing less from you.
Oh, yeah, I love it. So, I mean, you just from a personal thing, you have a special place in my heart because you brought my grandkids. That day was the first time it was a kind of a reunion of sort in a weird way. But I want to thank you for that. That was a special moment to be around the funny farm, to experience it. We went to it again this year, and we
Yeah.
actually missed. They had a few animals out front, and we didn't even see them until we were leaving. But I want to ask you a question. You recently, I mean, I know some of the things have been going on. Tell us about relocating. Is that something you can talk about, that you're now, moving closer into the vision that you want to have?
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm excited to share about it actually. And apparently I am good at relocating. So, yeah, we moved down here from Montana to Georgia last year and love where we're at in Brooks, Georgia. We knew when we came here, it wasn't the forever place, but it got us here to where my heart was called to do what I'm doing around everything at Thrive Ranch. But we had a conversation about what our ultimate dream was. And it was so really, I don't know, almost a miracle, I guess, is the way that I would describe it, because we had a conversation of the clarity of what the ideal scenario would be as this vision grows and what that land would look like and having a pond and certain things. Maybe on a Saturday. And by Wednesday of that following week, my husband happened on a property that wasn't even on the market yet and said, "Hey, can you reach out and check this out?" Which I did. And by that Friday, we were in contract on 53 acres in Woodbury, Georgia. So it's about 30 minutes farther south of us here in Brooks. And it was just so incredible. As I drove out to that property, I'm at a season in my life where I'm really clear on how I need to feel. It's all about how I feel and what I do and where I live and the experiences I want to create and make others feel. And as I drove out to that property, all the right feels were there, and pulled up on it and absolutely fell in love. It doesn't have a house or anything yet. Here in Brooks, we have a beautiful home, and we put all time and energy and money into building the barn here and a shop and all the things. But this property presents. And so we took this leap of faith and made it happen. And so there is a little tiny house on it. I've fixed it up real cute. And so what that's probably going to look like for us in the nearer future than I planned is to get the fencing dialed in, get a barn dialed in for the animals. And, we're empty nesters now. So we'll make that little tiny house work while we build out the rest of the vision. But I'm so excited. And what I would invite anyone to consider is, one, be open to the madness that change brings. It's certainly going to be a wild ride getting all of the animals from point A to point B, but nothing can compare to getting them from Montana to here. So now it's cake, right? But just, it's not entirely clear on how it's all going to unfold, but I'm clear on why we're doing it. We both are. And I am in the process of starting a nonprofit as a way to cultivate some of the experiences we do here at Thrive Ranch for those that couldn't afford it. And I don't want anyone to miss out on the opportunity you and your grandkids had to just be in nature, to be with these animals, and then focus on the things we focus out here, which is our superpowers, as I like to say. And that is getting grounded and back to nature, really back to the simple things, because we can have all the things in the world and they can be blessings. But without those simple core things in place, we sometimes feel like we're missing something. And I'm bringing people back to the basics to help them ignite that little something in them. And it's different for everyone. It's certainly not a funny farm like I've cultivated in my dreams, but whatever that is, this is a space for people to consider what's possible and be reminded of the simple actions it can take to move towards bringing those things that light us up, our genius powers, as you would say, to life. We focus on grounded nature, breath work, mind, body, spirit type of grounding, and then personal responsibility, which I believe is a huge superpower. What that looks like here at the ranch in a really literal way is, there is poop everywhere. It's our responsibility not to step in it. And you know what? Sometimes we're inevitably going to step in some poop. And it's also our responsibility to navigate that in a powerful way, right? And so I just invite people to pay attention to that here, but also in life and back out in the real world, right? Where can you avoid the poop? And when you find yourself in the poop, how can you move through that in a powerful way? And then gratitude. And we fill our buckets out here because we have a lot of buckets around the ranch. And so we are very intentional. We have buckets hanging in the barn, inviting people to write out their dreams and add it to the bucket. Write out what they need to let go of and add that to our let it go bucket, because, that's sometimes our biggest challenge, is just what we're carrying that's heavy, that's not serving us, and ultimately in our way. And often they're things that we can't do anything about. And so those things that are beyond our control around here, we give space to just release it. And then gratitude. We have our gratitude bucket. And I wholeheartedly believe from my own experience that even when we're going through the hardest seasons, like you have walked through, when we focus on what we have to appreciate, it appreciates in our life. And so those three simple concepts are the main core of what we do here beyond just the interactions with the animals. And my heart is so big around that, because I want to empower people to thrive and live their best life, their dreams, make them reality, I should say.
I love that. I heard when you were saying at the beginning, you go off of feelings. And I think what I have seen is that phone that we have has disconnected us from feelings. And it's almost like we have to reconnect ourselves with the gratitude, the things around us, the nature. It's a little colder now, so I don't know how many days, but I would go out. I go early in the morning out on the porch, and then in the afternoon when the sun's out, the birds and the bees and the hummingbirds, and just taking it in, the
Absolutely.
feeling is pretty incredible. What would you say, like, I know you get up early, you got to go out and take care of the funny farm, or your doing your duties. So how does that make you feel when you first walk out and they've had the night and you're out there early getting them connected and seeing them? Share with our viewers what
Yeah.
that's like. How do you feel, and what is that like?
Yeah, there's something that is so igniting in that for me. And gosh knows if I am behind the curve in any way, they are lined up waiting at the gate for me, letting me know that I am behind the curve. But yeah, I mean, obviously, there are days when it's rainy and gloomy. And gosh, when I lived in Montana, snowing and 40 below, that, I surely didn't want to get up and do the thing, but I
Mhm.
don't have a choice with the commitment that I've made. And I'm always so grateful once I'm out there, breathing the fresh air, man, that alone is just something so simple that we can reintroduce in our lives on a daily basis that will most definitely change your life. Getting back out in nature, having the opportunity to connect with the earth, feel the sunshine, it's so good for us. And so I just feel alive in a different way. When I walk around out there in the morning, I greet, every animal and say good morning and try to touch them with intention so they just feel my love. And I certainly feel theirs too. And beautifully, speaking to grounding, we can have an electrical exchange just by touching the animals who are connected with the earth, even when I have my rubber boots on, So that's kind of a really unique way to connect. But I just feel alive in a different way. And in that, I feel gratitude and joy in a different way. And yeah, even when I'm down there shoveling the poop, it's just it's not for everyone, but there is something for everyone that's going to make them feel alive the way that I feel alive when I'm out there doing my thing every day. And so I would encourage anyone to just pay attention to the things that kind of make them feel a little more alive. And I do promise that being outdoors, at least on a daily, even if it's for moments a day, will make everyone feel a little bit more alive if they're intentional and present in those moments. So,
Mm. I love that when you said being present, because society and the fast paced nature, it's like we're running, and I go out occasionally and I see the cars zipping in and out. I mean, I'm going like,
yeah,
whoa. It's like, what is that mindset of that person who's cutting you off and they're racing? And it's like that
right.
kind of pace is not good for us. But I want to ask you another question, because we talked briefly about it. I felt like journaling set
Mm,
me free and created a curiosity, just a way that I could express myself, and I felt free, almost like I never knew it could be so freeing.
mm.
How do you use journaling to help you in your daily life?
Yeah, I start most days with journaling. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule because I'm human. But
Mhm.
yeah, I start most every day. And I haven't always done that either. I've been more intentional about it in probably the last 5 years or so. And the reason I wasn't intentional about it always is because I was in my head so much going, am I doing this right? I don't know what I have to say. It's so crazy how we judge ourselves on something that is so personal. But it also makes you, one, recognize, or at least it made me recognize how often we're doing that throughout our day of being critical of ourselves. And
Mhm.
so the way that I was able to step into journaling in a way that didn't seem so intimidating and I was a little less in my head is just through the concept of gratitude and starting with, 3 things I'm grateful for every day.
Mm.
And that just simplified it, that I didn't overthink if I was doing it right. And I know it's, again, so silly that I even thought such a thing. That was a really powerful way to begin journaling. One, because I spoke to the power of gratitude. There have been hard seasons I walked through, days when I felt really broken. And when I took the time to just consider what I had to be grateful for and write those down as an extra step, it really did shift my energy and my experience of my day. So I do remind everyone on the hardest days is when it's most important to take some time to maybe write about those 3 things you have to be grateful for to start. That's not too complicated, right? We can all commit to doing a minute of writing 3 things we're grateful for. And then as far as journaling, stepping into it in that way gave me space to then start there, but it just became more natural to write my heart and let it flow and get out of my head, because it doesn't matter. One, no one could read my writing anyway, so I can write whatever I want and there's no right or wrong because no one will translate my scratch writing. But 2, just that creativity and that freedom and that flow came to me, but I had to start really simple before it elaborated into what it can be on some days today.
That's beautiful. I wanted to share before we. I was listening to, I don't know if it was a podcast or just a video, and the person talked about how the pen to paper exercise helped rewrite it, almost like rewrite. It does rewire your brain.
It
And I'm
does.
kind of I always like, and he would say, like, a lot of college kids will be typing because they can type faster. They're getting the note, but it's not the same activity because the brain just, there's something magical when you put that pen on that paper and you write. It just wires your brain in a very positive way, that so much information is coming at us. It gives us a chance to process our thoughts, our ideas,
Yeah.
and get out on paper. We have so much information that's coming at us. We have to have a release method, and journaling, writing those down. And people say, well, what do you write about? I said, I don't know, the day yesterday, what I learned, the day ahead. Now I've started writing 1 page of my week ahead. What would I want this week to look like? And I write it out, and it's kind of like it takes my thoughts and helps focus them in the right areas. But I get it out on paper, and that's my default on everything. Is I carry it with me like I carry my phone, and I'm
Right.
on my journal more than I'm on my phone now. And
I
it's,
love that you do that. It's so powerful. And I too carry my journal a lot of places with me as well, to just whip it out as something, an experience hits me and I want to harness that moment. But speaking to the pen to paper element of it, I spoke to filling our buckets around here, and it's the same thing. Obviously, some tin buckets aren't magic, right? And neither is the pen or the paper. But the process of taking a minute to, one, consider a dream or a goal on your heart. And that doesn't have to be something hairy and audacious like a funny farm. Maybe the dream on your heart is stepping back. Maybe it's sitting down at the dinner table more nights a week than not with your family. I'm not talking you have to want to, harness the moon. You can, and that's amazing too, whatever it may be, mild to wild, but taking the time to consider it and write that out and physically add it to that bucket, while that's not some magic act, the intentionality of it is very powerful. And that's the same with the release on the let it go bucket, and the same with the gratitude. The more we intentionally do all of those things and take the time to pen to paper it, not just reflect, even though that alone is powerful. And if that's the best you can do, by all means, just take the time to reflect on those things. But that pen to paper is that added step that just puts a little momentum and energy behind it that does help it to come back in a way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you, Xana?
Absolutely. They can find me at thriveranch.co. And there you will find all things about the animals, about the dream cultivation sessions we do, about we're going to be adding the layer of the nonprofit soon. So look for that. We have our Thriver Tribe, where we have just an amazing community of people who are being intentional about the way they want to live and thriving in their lives and supporting each other. So come check it all out, please.
Oh, that's so awesome. So last question, what would you want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
That is a really beautiful question. And I want them to take home hope. hope and possibility, and know that whatever is on your heart is possible. You don't have to know how, but if you're clear on the what and the why, it's possible.
Ooh, I love it. Thank you so much, Anna. Appreciate it. And it was so much fun that we kind of flipped it a little bit and had a chance to catch up. But thank you so much, Anna, for being on the podcast. And maybe on the 16th, we can get you back up to Kennesaw where you can speak at another live event, because we
I
love that.
really would love to. So we'll definitely, whenever it is, I will be back to a live event, but hopefully then.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate you.